Howdy partners, it's so good to be here again. And as you can see, there are some changes in the studio. I'm no longer trapped in that broom closet upstairs, as much as I was grateful for that space. So as you can see, it's a bit of a blank canvas right now. Things will be iterating and changing over the coming days and weeks. So stay tuned and you'll see how things will evolve. I'm still figuring things out over here, but boy am I glad to be down here. In any case, now with this space built and with that giant 2024 year-end list video out of the way, now I can fully focus on 2025 cinema. And I was very curious to check out this latest film, Bonjour, Tristesse. And it does have a lot of French language peppered out throughout the experience, but it is a majority an Anglophone film. In any case, I was delighted to learn that this is a film made by a Montreal-based film director. Her name is Durga Chubos. I'm probably butchering her name, so please forgive me if that is the case. In any case, this is her debut feature film, and it is an adaptation of a French novel of the same name, written by Françoise Sagan. I'm assuming the French pronunciation here. In any case, the premise of this film is Cécile, a young 18-year-old girl, and her widowed father are on vacation in the south of France in this beautiful beachside home. And this place is simply gorgeous. Quite literally paradise on earth. And she is in this newly formed relationship with this total stud of a local young Frenchman over here. The relationship, at the moment at least, is a little hush-hush since she doesn't want her father knowing about it just yet. And while she is exploring this young budding romance over here, her father is also in a relationship and he brought along his girlfriend over to this vacation. But they seem to have been together for a while and have formed an interesting little family dynamic. But soon enough, an old friend of her mother's shows up, invited by no less the father himself. It is a bit of an awkward third wheel situation, and her arrival pretty much changes the dynamics at home and throws whatever balance existed in her life upside down. There is an interesting dramatic tension that is explored in Bonjour Tristesse, and the cast for the most part does a serviceable job. I do like the relationship and the dynamic between the father and daughter over here. It is both very sweet and tender, while also having some more complicated moments. But for me, it is Chloe Sevigny that is the absolute acting highlight in this film. She is enigmatic, stoic, and rather hard to read, which makes her for a very intriguing mystery to unpack. And I will say, for a while I was into the drama of this film, but I gotta be honest with you guys, the last third of the film pretty much dropped the ball for me. And it is going to be a struggle for me to talk about this film further without going too much into spoiler details. I will do my best, but be warned, we'll go over some pretty macro level spoilers. So in principle, this jealousy narrative arc that is explored here could have worked for me, but I do find that the plot just kind of meanders about for the last leg of the film. And I think what rubbed me the wrong way most in this film is that I literally had question marks going on in my head in regards to this very questionable scheme that was organized. I won't say the specifics of what that was, but I remember vividly thinking to myself, girl, what are you doing? What do you hope to achieve here? And why are you doing it this way of all ways? It was a bit of a head scratcher for me and not a very satisfying conclusion. But seeing that this is a film that is an adaptation from the book, it will be curious to learn if that book handled this chapter much better. If any of you watching this video have read the book and have strong feelings about that, please let me know in the comments because I am genuinely curious. So once again, no spoilers, but I do feel like the last chapter of this film has these giant gaping wounds for holes, which in some sense is somewhat appropriate if we approach this from an allegory point of view. And on that note, now that I'm thinking about the metaphorical aspect of this film, there is at least one foreshadowed element relatively early on in the film that I feel like never really properly materialized in the way it seemed to be hinting towards. But there are actually other bits of mise-en-scène in this film that I think were great. For example, there's this mirror shot relatively early on where someone removes a finger and places it on the table that I thought was very telling. And there's also this wonderful shot of our three women, the girlfriend, the daughter Cécile, and the mysterious newcomer, the three of them lined up in a cascading form, each of them eating an apple in their own unique way, which in itself was very revealing towards their own eccentricities and character development. And of course, my mind was immediately going to the apple of Eden, which could symbolize temptation and sin. And finally, there is this moment where Cécile is untangling this mess of tangled wires for her earphones. And this is something that pretty much all of us, I think, can relate to on some level, but it does work very elegantly in this metaphor of the mess her life is in at this moment. And speaking of elegance, this film looks amazing. The south of France is beautiful, there's no question about that. But it is the lighting and cinematography that is just perfect in this film. Each moment is just supremely captured, and it gives even the mundane moments this narrative weight and this fragrance of poetry. The music also beautifully supports that in that regard. Except for this one moment that I find was very out of place, and that kind of broke the sonic uniformity of the film, but I admit I am nitpicking here. And finally, I must say there is a stellar use of the color blue in this film. It works beautifully both in the film's aesthetics and in the use of the narrative mise-en-scène. I particularly love how it's complemented with some very meaningful use of orange and red. It is no accident that the color red takes a much more dominant presence in the film during that jealousy arc. There's a very thoughtful use of the color palette in this film. So as you can see, there's an interesting dramatic tension over here, and it is a very stylish film. Truly in the visual department, it's aces. So it genuinely is a shame that the film's ending didn't stick the landing for me. So because of that, I'm ranging at a 6.5 out of 10. Maybe I'm willing to bump it to a 7, because there is a lot that I genuinely do admire about this film. And I think fans of Eric Romer films may get a real kick out of this. I do find that it falls somewhat in that kind of category of filmmaking. So with all that being said, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you soon. I gotta go to bed now. It's actually really late now. Bye.